All right, everybody, it's time for another new episode of A Whole New World with me, your host, Jacob New. As always, I hope everybody's had a great weekend. We're here to put a spotlight on positive things happening in the community and developing a positive mindset. So, it is time for everybody's favorite part of the week. I know, everybody looks forward to this every Tuesday. The dad joke of the week. So get ready for it. Why was the baby strawberry crying? Because his mom and dad were in a jam. That was good. I'm sorry, baby strawberry. Yeah, it's all right. I love those. So, we have a very special guest today. We're very honored to have you here, Miss Charlotte Canion.
Canion, just like the Grand Canyon with an I rather than a Y.
All right, I like it. And she is here. She has her book, You Have to Laugh to Keep from Crying, How to Parent Your Parents. So, we're looking forward to hearing some of your tips. But first, I want to hear a little bit about you. Share just a little bit of info about you. Like, where are you from? Some of the things you've done.
Well, my dad was a Texan.
All right.
And he married an Arkansas lady.
Okay.
But he got me here as quick as he could because I was 3 years old. So my family moved here when I was 3. And I was raised right here in the Metroplex.
I'm going to count that you're born Texan.
Well, once you've been here that long.
Yeah.
It rubs off on you. Went to high school here. Went to college in East Texas, Stephen F. Austin. And my life's just been all kinds of fun. Had 5 children. And now I have 18 grandchildren.
Wow, congratulations.
Thank you. God is good. Yes,
he is.
Yes.
It's a lot of little grandchildren birthdays to keep up with, too.
Yes, and June is my biggest month.
Okay.
So it's coming.
So it all clusters in June. And
right.
Okay.
All right. Yeah, more people are
Well, at least they made it easier for you there.
Yeah. And I have kind of a colorful life. I actually retired from being the event planner for a large corporation. But in the interim, I was an actress. I've done commercials. Just a little. An
actress for.
Well, I had an agent here in town, so I got all kinds of little bit parts. I was in Tender Mercies with Robert Duvall.
Okay.
I was able to when the first Rocky premiered. Mm-hmm. I was one of his escorts.
Okay.
Out on the stage, and the reason is I'm short. For those listeners can't see me, I'm 5 foot tall. Well, Robert Duvall. I mean, all male movie stars are short, and Sly Stone is barely 5'10". So having a 5 foot. Makes him look really tall. And they wanted a brunette and a blonde, so he was escorted on stage with I'm the brunette, and then I have no idea who the girl was, but she was a blonde, and so we flanked him real well.
That's good. I should say that's my fiance because she's also 5 foot. But
well, dynamite comes in small packages.
It
so
does.
I'm going to tell you that,
and it's very powerful. I'm scared sometimes. I'm not gonna lie. So you've been an actress, or an event planner. Now you're an author. So, tell us what have been some of those transitions for you, like exciting.
Oh, they're all exciting.
Okay.
I always look at every day and expect a miracle or something new. And I'll tell you a little funny thing about me is I like to please everyone. I'm one of those pleasing person. And when I realize a new advantage or a new opportunity is in front of me, but I don't want to disappoint the people I'm with, I have a hard time letting go. Yeah. And give you a strong example is recently I'm also a singer, and I'm not on stage or anything, but at church, and I'm a cantor at church, and so I've done solos.
Karaoke bars.
I was a Sweet Adeline, and I had my own quartet. But God was leading me to this book and to do a lot more speaking and all. But the time they were having rehearsals, I had other things to do. But I have a hard time letting go and disappointing people. I had this 3 rule.
Okay.
If you kind of rub me the wrong way 3 times, you kind of go on a back burner.
Okay, 3 strikes and you're out.
3 strikes and you're out. You're exactly right. And he had to do a confrontation with me and the choir director 3 different times for me to finally say, okay, God, I hear you. I'm moving on. And I've realized, I've looked at a pattern. I do that all the time.
Yeah.
I won't let go of something until I just have to. Now that I'm mature, I do it more readily now.
Okay.
Without the 3 strike rule.
So now I'm like the 1.5, 2 strike rule.
Right.
Got it.
Right.
I will keep that in mind.
Yeah, don't piss me off.
No. Dynamite. Got it. Learn. So, oh, snap. So I have this thing where I'll open my mouth and the words fly out, but you don't hear anything.
Right. I saw them. They went to the left.
They just fluttered out. So you said you were choir, but so what led you to do this book? So what did you have parents that you had to take care of that?
Well, let me give you a little background.
Yes.
My mother actually pretty much raised me because my dad traveled a lot.
Okay.
His background was he was a Marine. He lost his mother when he was 2. He lost his dad when he was 12, and he was in a foxhole in Guadalcanal at the age of 16.
Wow.
So a hard man.
Yeah.
And I was probably, thank God, he did travel because he was kind of a hard man to love. Well, 16 years ago, my dad was in the early stages of Parkinson. Mm-hmm. My mother had just got diagnosed with Alzheimer's, and my husband's an only child, and my father-in-law lived with us, and he developed dementia. All at the same time.
Whoa, that's a brutal combination.
Brutal combination. And my husband and I had, our kids were out of the house. We were excited about retirement and looking forward to it. And all of a sudden, I felt like I'd been thrown into the deep end of the swimming pool. Yeah. And, I was treading water. Wasn't swimming very far, but I was treading water. And I realized, okay, I'm going to have to do what I have to do. And I did retire early from my event planning job. Okay. And I loved it because I got to, do galas and, blow up the balloons and meet people. And I love people. I'm a people person. I really enjoy people. But after they, all started going downhill, and they don't go down, just FYI, I'm going to let your audience know, it's going to be very subtle. You aren't going to recognize it. I didn't. I mean, they told me until they labeled it, till a doctor put the label of Alzheimer's or Parkinson on it or dementia. Yeah. I'm in denial, just like my husband was in denial. But the first person that's in denial is them, their self. Oh, yeah. You're like, my mother, they fake it. That's the interesting thing is...
So they're aware.
They're aware before anyone else is that something's not right in their head. So when people are in a conversation, if they don't understand it or whatever, they'll laugh when everyone laughs.
Okay.
They will look like they understand and nod their head. So they're faking it as well before we even realize it.
Sounds like they're learning coping mechanisms before.
Exactly. It's a defense mechanism. I'm not going to get this. I'm not going to go down that road. Yeah. So it's a definitely a defense mechanism. I don't know that they ever really accept it, that's going on. I learned early on that there is a little simple test you can do. If you think a parent has got dementia, and I use dementia very generally because dementia is the big umbrella that covers all of the diseases that seniors have.
I did not know.
Yeah, and there's over 250 or more. I mean, I don't even know them all.
That is a big umbrella.
But it covers everything, and I used this little test that I found somewhere or shared with someone because I started going to, meetings of caregiver groups and, well, what did you experience? What did you experience? And it's very therapeutic. But the little test is you take 5 generic words like tree, picture, running, flower, and book.
Okay, and you just made those up just now.
I just made those off the top of my head. Use
words.
any 5 words you want. And, simple as can be.
Okay.
And you ask that person, can you repeat these 5 words back to me? And guess what?
I don't even know if I could do that.
They can. Oh, my gosh, you're going down the trail.
Oh.
It's the rabbit hole, the dark rabbit hole.
Yeah. Don't tell my fiance.
Yeah. No, but I mean, if I said them to you and said, I'm going to give you 5 words, repeat them back, you could. You could repeat them back. But they can't. They might come up with 1 or 2 of them. Okay. And then they want to go to something else. Their attention span becomes like a 3-year-old. Okay. If y'all are doing a project. Is that just
because they know they can't remember, so they're just trying to kind of mask it? Or?
Yep, that's part of the masking of it. But they do lose their attention, just like And with that being said, one of the terms is role reversal. And role reversal is exactly what it says. They become your child and you become the parent. But with that being said, you never let them know that you know that's happening. In other words, you have to respect them for who, what, and where they were. They taught you to ride a bike. They helped you teeter-totter on your little feet. You respect them. They are the parents. You respect them till they're gone. You respect them beyond they're gone. But, I mean, you respect them for that. You also have to love them unconditionally like you did that 3-year-old. Yeah. And you have to have patience with them. Oh, my gosh. Patience is probably one of the hardest things. You can respect them and still lose your patience. Yes. But you have to control your patience, not with just them, but have patience with yourself. Because I promise you, your brain is going to go, why me? And you're going to just, you're going to go, you're going to twist it into all sorts of things. And then the other rule I call it my 4 golden rules, is forgiveness. Oh, my gosh, you have to forgive. We all have lives where there's been things in the past that we need to forgive and forget. And there's going to be things they're going to do. I'll give you a little example. My mom was the best mom, sweetest, my best friend. She was just a wonderful lady. Mm-hmm. And 99% of the time, even when she ended up in a facility, she was good. But there was this one day I went in and she's yelling and screaming. She hated me. Don't ever come back. I don't want to see. I mean, needless to say, I was crushed. Yeah. I mean, I'm her only daughter. I'm her oldest daughter.
You're there to see her.
I was one to take care of her, but I knew I couldn't handle it. And the other thing I tried not to do was never cry in front of her. I didn't want her to think she caused it. Because I knew that person that was saying those things was not my mother. Mm-hmm. This was the disease. And she could have been in pain that day. I can't go back, but in summation and looking back at it, she could have been in some kind of pain, and I just happened to be there that she could strike out. I'm one of the lucky ones because I know thousands of people that have gone through this through my book. I've met a lot of people. They say it happens, on a regular basis. A lot of times they call them grouchy old men or
Yeah. I remember that was a movie too, Grumpy Old Men.
Grumpy Old Men, yes. Yeah. That can happen. But I'm going to assure you that if you use love, respect, and patience and forgiveness, you'll go down the journey with a lot smoother sailing. You'll have a lot less stress. And that's my purpose of my book, was to let people go through the journey with a lot less stress than I went through. Because stress
You're the trailblazer.
Hurts the body. I even developed cancer halfway through the journey because I was not taking care of the caregiver. And with that being said, and we can talk about it later, but that's the next book is Caring for the Caregiver. Is because you've got to take care. It's that old adage, if you're on an airplane, what does the pilot tell you? Mm-hmm. In the case we lose cabin pressure, we'd like you to put on your mask first and then your child. Same thing with caring for parents. You have to take care of your first. In fact, there's a statistic out there right now. 57% of family caregivers die before the person they're taking care of.
Wow, I did not
Very
know that.
scary.
Yes.
Very scary statistic. So that's why we're trying to, help the caregivers care for themselves. I did this first book, You Have to Laugh to Keep from Crying, to let people know they're not alone.
Yeah.
I thought I was out there alone. And I never even thought about taking care of 3. Of course, nurses take care of a lot, but family caregivers don't normally have 3. They might have 2. And I'm sure they're out there. I just haven't run across.
I would imagine most have 1.
They might have 1.
Yeah.
Yes.
But
The majority of them have 1. There are some that have 2. To this date, I haven't run into anyone that was taking care of 3, unless they were a nurse within hospice or a nurse in the industry.
Okay.
So, yeah.
And that's tough. And and I love that you're sharing your story too, because a lot of times anybody no matter what journey they are on, I think at some point we have this feeling of, am I alone? Like, why am I the only? I feel like I'm the only person that's feeling this way. And then sometimes what we need to do is just open our mouths or just go, and we find out that we're not alone. So,
Right.
Very grateful that you're sharing your story.
Well, thank
too.
you. Well, I have to tell you. Let me tell you real quick how it came about. My mother died at 93.
Okay.
And she outlived my father-in-law and my dad by 7 years.
Oh, wow.
And
women do last longer.
yeah, women do live longer.
They live longer.
But the interesting thing was, 6 weeks after she died, God told me to write a book. I mean, literally, like you and I are talking. He said, Charlotte, now you're going to write the book. And I literally looked up to heaven and I went, but God, I did not do well in English. And all of a sudden it says, we got editors for that, but you're a great storyteller. 11 months later, my book is in my hand. Because I also got an email. I'm going, okay, God, you don't send emails. But I got an email that invited me to go to a writer's seminar, a three-day weekend writer's seminar.
Oh, wow.
And that got me started.
He's not going to give you any excuses.
No, it was destined, and I don't even know where it's going to end up. I'm just I'm having the time of my life, because what I'm doing is I'm sharing my stories with people, and people are sharing their stories with me, and it's like a big hug circle.
Yeah.
Everyone is hugging each other, and I do get a lot of thank you for sharing your story, because one thing I was going to mention, you said a while ago, people want to be in denial.
Yeah.
They don't want to admit mom's got Alzheimer's, or mom's got Parkinson, or dad's got dementia. They're afraid to share their story. And I think where some of that fear comes from is they think it might happen to me.
Yeah. No, I'm terrified that's going to happen to me too. And I think another part too is that you grow up, they're like your heroes.
They are,
too.
yes.
And for a lot of people, I can't say for everybody, but I know for me, my parents were my heroes growing up. They were who I looked up to, and for me to kind of even think of them and going through that is like, that won't happen to them.
Yeah,
even now I'm sitting in denial.
Well, no, and you're still, young and well, and they're finding all kinds of, help through it, and I think I mentioned crossword puzzles are very good.
Yeah,
word finds. Anything you do to exercise your brain, we all exercise our bodies, but they don't tell you to continue. Well, they don't push as much as they do the exercise to keep exercising your brain. Reading is one of the best thing in the world.
Yeah.
Read a book or two a month at least.
Yeah.
And that's very good. Keep yourself
10 pages a day or something.
Yeah, but they do have medicine. I was at a seminar the other day where there was a pharmacist, and he said they're testing, hundreds and hundreds of drugs. Now maybe 1 or 2 will make it, to the market, but they are making advances. The thing that scares me is every time we conquer one, there'll be another one pop its head up that could be worse or, equal to. But the thing I'm the most, I guess you'd say, respectful of is the industry. Mm-hmm. Right now, it's the third largest growing. Senior health care is the third largest growing industry in the United States. And what our parents thought about was the old I'm going to use the word nursing home facility, where it wasn't probably the best care. It wasn't.
Yeah.
That's not the story now. Oh my gosh. I have been in probably 300 different facilities, and everything from retirement centers for seniors to the memory care to, the Alzheimer's units. It is amazing. First of all, any of the nurses or RNs or aides that work in those places, they usually go through that. They get that degree because they've had someone in their family. They have a true story. Yeah. Because I guarantee they don't go into it for the money.
No.
It is not the highest paying. But the facilities, and they range, and I realize, if you have a lot of money, you can find a high end. But even facilities that Medicare pays for are very nice. They have chefs in their facilities cooking meals, and you get a choice of 2 or 3 different entrees. I mean, the care is unbelievably so different than what my great-grandmothers may have had.
Yeah. No, speaking of the chefs, I was like, I never even thought about this, but I had a friend who's like a classically trained chef, and that was his job for a little bit, he was working at a care facility. Oh, yeah. And so I was like, I didn't even think that they didn't have that before.
No, so, they didn't. They just had a cook or, something like cafeteria food in a school. Yeah. Although I understand schools are getting a little different.
Yes, they are. They are. So we had popcorn chicken today.
Popcorn chicken. Ooh.
Talk about high end. Yeah. So, we're going to take a quick break, and so we'll be right back in just a couple. So thank you guys for listening. This is A Whole New World. Jacob New as your host, and here is a song. All right, welcome back, everybody, to A Whole New World with me, your host, Jacob New, and our wonderful guest here, Charlotte Canion. So we left and we were talking about care facilities, and you had shared 4 tips when taking care of your parents. One was to keep loving them, be respectful was the second one. Mm-hmm. Patience and hold up. I failed.
Forgiveness.
That's 75%. I got that right. Yeah.
You won't ever forget it again.
Yes. No.
Do you know we learn from our failures, not our successes? So see,
that
you won't
so
forget.
True. Yeah. And here I am just failing online.
No. You're not. No, but I said that yesterday. I said, we don't learn from those successes. And I was in a room of 25 CEOs. I felt a little intimidated, but it was an association of associations, and it was all the CEOs.
Oh wow!
Yeah, it was an interesting meeting. But
I'm sweating just thinking about that.
but I made the comment. I said, we don't learn from our successes. We learn from our failures.
No, that's true.
And that's the way it's supposed to be. Benjamin Franklin, he's the golden rule of that. He had 57 failures before he got the light bulb.
And that reminds. I was listening to another podcast on my way here, and the guest on there, she was talking about how all her failures, were she didn't call them failures, it was like her best success, because those are like our building blocks. I mean, without tearing ourselves down, we can't build ourselves back up.
Exactly.
And make us stronger.
Well, if you get on top of the mountain, you can't stay there.
No, you got to look at the next mountain,
Yeah.
So look for the next adventure. But one thing I do love, so I want to talk about your book now. So I love your title. You have to laugh to keep from crying. So, and to me that just speaks about finding the joy in negative situations, or maybe like situations that are not easy. I mean, obviously, having to take care of your parents, and that's not always an easy situation, or just having to take care of people in general, you know. So, what led you to that title, and like, what experiences can you share?
What's interesting, I think that's one of my mother's phrases, but it's, everyone knows that you have to laugh to keep from crying.
Yeah.
But it's been so applicable in this industry because there were situations when, with Alzheimer's, dementia, it doesn't matter what they're senior, where they would get depressed. Mm-hmm. And to get them out of depression, you get them laughing. Laughing creates more endorphins in our body than being sad. So every time my mom would seem sad, I would tell her favorite joke.
Okay. Now, what is your favorite joke?
Oh, you want to hear the joke? Okay.
Yes.
This rope.
And then we'll get back on track.
Okay. This rope hops into the bar. Okay. And he hops up on the bar stool, and he says, "Bartender, bartender, give me a beer."
Yeah, okay.
And the bartender looks at him perplexed, and he goes, "You're a rope. We don't serve ropes in here." Okay. So he hops down from the bar, goes outside. He twists himself up, and he hops back into the bar. He jumps up on the bar stool. He says, "Bartender, bartender, give me a beer." Bartender looks at him. "Weren't you the rope that was in here a few minutes ago?" "Afraid not."
I love it. I love it. I wish I would have started with that. Not
no,
lie.
but yeah. No, it is. And even if you have an episode with your parent, and it's kind of a downer, what I want people to do is look at it later and find the humor in it.
Yeah.
And you can find humor in everything. You can find a reason to smile. The fact that your mom was talking, because might be a time when she's not talking. There was a lady at my mother's facility who never said a word. She was very ambulatory, so she could walk all around the place. But she would go into their big community room, and there was a piano there. She would sit down at the piano, and I would have thought it was Patsy Cline. She would sing. Oh. She'd sit there for 15 or 20 minutes, play the piano and sing all the big band music and all the,
Oh, wow.
And then she'd get up and
just wouldn't say a word.
And would never said a word to anyone else. So you look at the positive of that was you got to hear her sing.
Yeah.
It's beautiful music, and so you find the beauty and you find the humor, and humor will heal anyone. You'll laugh. And like I said, I used the joke. There was my mother wore glasses her whole life.
Yeah.
So shortly after, and it's just a nature of things when they're kind of, oh, those are my glasses. So they wandered off somewhere else, and we never found them.
Yeah.
And Mom wasn't reading anymore, so I didn't worry about getting her new glasses. But all of a sudden, I realized she was reading the nurses' badges, or if someone had a newspaper up, she would read the headlines on the back of the newspaper. And I thought to myself, okay, and I'm sure all of this, God has given me, little gifts to pick up things.
Yeah.
But I said, wonder if... So I went and bought flashcards like they use in first grade.
Okay.
So I would, and I still have them to this day, but I would show her a word, and the one word that stands out to me, and she would tell a story or, make a sentence with that word on her own.
Yeah.
But whenever I'd show her the word green, written in green, she'd go, green. Do you remember that green fort? And we used to always go visit Grandma up in Arkansas, and she would go into a whole story. That word would trigger...
Something about that color.
Would trigger a story. Okay. But other words would trigger stories as too. And as I said earlier, their attention span's not very long, so we would play that game for 5 or 10 minutes. But it was really fun because I'd just hold up and she'd go, well, why are you doing that? You know, there would be lucid times when, and I go, oh, I'm just playing.
Yeah.
And she goes, okay. You know, and then she'd say, I don't want to play anymore. You know.
Yeah.
But like I said, they're like your 3-year-old child. You know, and I would always, here's another thing. My mother had what they call a swallow issue, or they diagnosed her. So her food looked like baby food.
Okay.
But she's a mature woman. And the nurses told me one time that, because I would get stories from the nurses as well, and I knew everyone. She was in a very small facility. But the nurses told me that they had pizza, and they kind of had a gated off area, and they had their pizza. My mother literally was able to reach around and get her a piece of that pizza, and she just gnawed to death with her 3 teeth she had left. So anyway, we realized that, you know, so we would take her donut holes, and, you know, we're right there with her, you know, if there was an issue, but there never was.
Yeah.
You know, but you kind of follow your gut. You know the person you love, you know who they were, you know who they're becoming, and if you do everything with a positive attitude and you know, keep it in that tone, I promise they'll have a much more pleasant journey than those that, you know, want to argue and say, oh no, that's not right. I'll give you an example. I have a friend that's a Dallas judge.
Okay.
And her parents live in Florida. Now, that's where all seniors go, is to Florida.
Yeah.
But her dad is going down the dementia rabbit hole. I call it the rabbit, you know, just kind of like Alice in Wonderland.
Well,
she don't know where it's going to head. But she was not looking forward to, she drove by herself from Dallas to Florida because it happened to be Grandma's 100th birthday, and she was going to drive her parents to New York. She belongs to one of those huge Italian families in New York where there was 200 people at the...
Yeah.
So she picked up her parents, and my book was in manuscript. And I told her, I said, Anna, why don't you come by and read the manuscript?
Do you mind holding up a copy of your book so we can show those on? Yes. So there it is, everybody. You have to laugh to keep from crying. Sorry to interrupt. Sorry.
No problem. No problem. And I know I get to talking. But anyway,
a copy of the manuscript.
Well, I had the only manuscript, the original, at my house because my book was at press. And I said, Anna, you need to come by and read it. Well, she didn't. But an hour into her trip from Florida to New York, I get a phone call from her cell phone. Charlotte, my dad is driving me nuts. He's in the back seat. And I said, well, Anna, what happened? Well, I'm driving down the highway, and Dad's telling me I'm going the wrong way. And I said, and Anna, what did you say? No, Dad, you're wrong. And I said, Dad, Anna, you were wrong. Never tell them they're wrong. First of all, respect them because they're parents. But I said, if he does it again, or if something like that happens again, say, Dad, you're right. This is not the road we normally go on. But you know what? A friend of mine told me about a restaurant up here. We'll stop for lunch, and look at the scenery. It's beautiful. You twist it so that it's what it needs to be, but that you're not offending them. That you're not...
They still kind of have some control, too.
Exactly. You haven't told them they're wrong. I don't think kids should ever tell their parents they're wrong.
I don't even like to be told I'm wrong. I mean, just being honest.
But parents can do that. But no, kids should not tell their parents they're wrong. I don't care what it is. You have to work it. It's the same thing with the keys, because at one point the keys have to be taken away. And I get that question a lot. And there's all kinds of different ways, but the most clever ones, and I won't go into my story with my father-in-law, but a lady told me that they let her mother keep the keys. Mom was still living at home. One of the daughters was checking on her, and she was still doing real well, but she shouldn't be driving. So they disconnected the battery cables. And kept telling Mom, well, we're going to get it fixed. So there are ways you can get around, the car key thing.
Oh, that's clever.
There's just a little clever, use your intuition, use your little clever ways of, and I don't want to call it placating, but you do have to cater to them with loving them unconditionally, respecting them for who, what, and where they are, having patience with not just them but with yourself, and forgiving. Forgiving them for anything they may have done in the past and what they may do in the future, and forgive yourself.
Yeah.
Because you're going to think things.
And I think our self-conversations, like, so important, just because I think actually this is another episode, but we have the most conversations with ourselves.
Oh, like, yes.
And so it's not our fault, I mean, that we're in certain situations all the time. I mean, you know, there's some you control, some you can't. Yeah. And it's just learning to discern what's in my control, what's not in my control. And I think that helps, and I like that outlook, that aspect that you...
Right. And if you prepare yourself before you go in, okay, I'm going in. This is my mom. She loved me. She took care of me. She was the first person that loved me.
Yeah.
Because women start right when they know they're expecting. I think it takes a dad till the baby's in their hands.
Yeah, I wouldn't know about that one yet.
I know you wouldn't, but I've had many dads tell me that they don't really. They know the baby's there. They want to connect. Yeah. There's no way they can as much as a mother can.
Yeah, well, y'all are a lot more connected to the baby than we are at that point. So just from what I've observed.
Well, and the baby recognizes the mother's voice because the baby has heard it for 9 months.
Yeah, that's true. I didn't even think about that. Wow. Mind blown.
Well, I came here to blow your mind.
Yeah, thank you. You did it. You did it. So how has going through taking care of your parents and developing your four golden rules, how has that changed the way that you see other people too and develop? Okay.
Oh, definitely. Yes. In fact,
So,
sometimes when I speak, when I mention the 4 golden rules and tell them what they are, I'll say, what do you think if the world treated each other with love, respect, patience, and forgiveness? We would live in a lot kinder world.
Oh, yeah. Because I was sitting here, I was like, this isn't stuff that we could just use with just our parents or people that we're taking care of. I was like, so I was just kind of curious. So,
yeah. And even my mindset, you know, and I'm a people person and I love, you know, everyone, but I'm human too, and I've grown up and there's been times I've been disappointed or got angry or whatever.
Yeah.
But I don't anymore. It serves no purpose. And I think about those 4 golden rules every day now and they're not new. I didn't come up with them, but I put them together in a presentation, and they've now become part of my, you know, part of my presence, part of who I am, you know, and I'm just a reminder to people.
And, you know, sometimes I think of parents telling you the same thing over and over again, or teachers trying to teach the same thing to a student, and then they go to somebody else, or somebody else says the exact same thing, and they're like, oh, that makes sense. I'm like, that was the exact same words I used earlier. Like, but it's just hearing it in another context.
In another context, from someone outside of because, well, just like my dad, like I said, he was a hard man to love, and hearing things from others. Let me just add something interesting here. My dad, I never dreamed he would end up in a facility as well, but I have to thank God right now because he was a hard man. I loved him because he was my dad. I maybe didn't like him a lot some of the time, but the last 18 months of his life, I got the dad I always wanted. He told me he loved me more in the last 18 months of his life than he had my whole life. Wow. And I've retrospect looked back and I go, well, his mother died when he was 2. He really didn't have anyone to teach him
how to
motherly love, because he was tossed from pillar to post. He was, you know, it was a hard life, and you know, I don't make excuses for a lot of the things he does, but I do now understand And I think with age comes some wisdom on that.
Yeah, and definitely the more experiences you go through, too.
Definitely.
Gives the experience.
Don't avoid, experiences.
Yeah.
I was in a seminar today, and it was about brave.
Okay.
How do you define brave? Well, brave is getting out of your comfort zone.
Mm-hmm. Doing something even though you're scared.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, thank you so much for coming and sharing your wisdom from your experiences.
Thank you, Jacob. It's been a pleasure.
I've enjoyed it thoroughly, and I'm looking forward to reading You Have to Laugh to Keep from Crying.
How to Parent Your Parents.
Yes.
And my new book is going to be called The Guilt Syndrome, Caring for the Caregiver. It should be out this fall.
This fall. So around the October-November timeline. Mm-hmm. All right. And where can people find copies of your book?
You can find them at Indie Beacon Bookstore. It's an Amazon bestseller if they like Kindle.
All right.
And they can go to my website and get a hard signed copy if they want.
And the website is
www.howtoparentyourparents.net.
www.howtoparentyourparents.net. Yes. So, which is actually linked in the show description for those of you interested as well. If not, you can definitely look it up on Amazon and Kindle. Again, the title is You Have to Laugh to Keep from Crying, How to Parent Your Parents. So, thank you so much for being on the show. And
Jacob, it's been a pleasure. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah. Well, one last thing before we go, though. I've kind of gotten in the habit of asking this question. I'm curious about morning routines. I've found that a lot of successful people have something they do in the morning that they do. And I know you said you're a morning person. So do you have any, morning routine or anything you do in the morning that kind of gets you pepped up, ready for the day, or you just...
Well, I exercise.
Okay.
I either exercise or go into my garden, which is exercise.
Oh, he's a gardener. That's awesome.
I'm a master gardener.
Okay. Oh, okay.
And there is a difference.
I wouldn't even know. I killed a succulent, so we're not going to talk about my gardening skills. So, all right. Well, thank you again for being on the show today. And thanks everybody out there for listening. This has been another episode of A Whole New World with me, your host, Jacob New. And as always, if y'all only learn to do one thing, learn to make a difference. Y'all have a good day.